Welcome, history enthusiasts, to a journey into the darker side of the past. Forget your modern finds and community service. Today, we're plunging headfirst into the grim reality of ancient penalties. Punishments that ranged from the physically brutal to the utterly terrifying. Prepare yourselves as we explore the methods used to enforce order in a world far removed from our own. From the sting of the lash to the agonizing finality of impalement. These are the stories of justice, or perhaps injustice, in the ancient world. Let's start with a punishment that, in various forms, has persisted throughout history: flogging. This wasn't just a light tap on the wrist. In many ancient societies, particularly in Roman times and even earlier civilizations, flogging was a severe penalty, often inflicted with whips made of leather, sometimes embedded with bone or metal shards. The goal was not just to punish, but to inflict significant physical pain and leave lasting marks, both physical and psychological. For slaves, soldiers who disobeyed orders, or those found guilty of lesser crimes, the public spectacle of flogging served as a stark warning to others. Imagine the scene: a figure bound to a post, the crack of the whip echoing through the marketplace, the gasps of the onlookers. This was a brutal but common form of ancient justice. Moving to a less physically violent, but certainly humiliating punishment, we have the stocks and the pillory. These devices, found in various forms across ancient cultures, involved securing a person's wrists and sometimes ankles, stocks, or head and hands, pillory, in wooden frames. The punishment wasn't primarily the physical restraint, though prolonged periods could be agonizing, especially in harsh weather. The true penalty lay in the public exposure. Locked in place, the condemned were subjected to the scorn, ridicule, and sometimes even physical abuse from passers-by. Rotten fruit, stones, and insults were common projectiles. This public shaming aimed to degrade the individual and deter others from similar offenses. For more serious crimes, ancient societies often turned to capital punishment, and one of the most straightforward methods was decapitation. The swift severance of the head from the body was seen as a relatively quick, albeit gruesome, end. Practiced in ancient Egypt, Greece, Rome, and many other civilizations, decapitation was often reserved for nobles, soldiers, or those who had committed high treason. The act itself was public, a stark display of the state's power and the consequences of defying its laws. The image of a fallen head, separated from its body, is a potent and chilling reminder of the finality of this ancient penalty. Perhaps one of the most infamous and brutal forms of ancient capital punishment is crucifixion, widely practiced by the Romans, but also used by other ancient cultures like the Persians and Phoenicians. Crucifixion was designed to inflict maximum pain and suffering over an extended period. The condemned was typically stripped, bound, or nailed to a cross or wooden stake and left to die from dehydration, exposure, suffocation, or a combination of these factors. The public nature of crucifixion served as a powerful deterrent, and the slow, agonizing death was intended to be a spectacle of the state's ultimate authority. The image of a lone figure hanging on a cross against a stark landscape remains a haunting symbol of this brutal practice. These held a primal power, and in ancient times, being burned at the stake was a terrifying form of execution, used for a variety of offenses, including heresy, treason, and sometimes even witchcraft accusations. Being burned alive was a particularly gruesome and public spectacle. The intense pain and the horrifying nature of the death were intended to serve as a powerful warning. The crackling flames, the smell of burning flesh, the desperate struggles of the condemned. These were the horrific realities of this ancient penalty. Heinous crimes. Some ancient societies devised punishments of unimaginable cruelty. Drawing and quartering, while more famously associated with medieval Europe, had its roots in earlier, equally brutal practices. This punishment typically involved dragging the condemned, followed by disembowelment and castration while still alive, and finally, the body being cut into 4 quartered pieces. The display of these body parts in prominent locations served as a gruesome and unforgettable warning against high treason and other severe offenses. This punishment was designed not only to kill, but to utterly desecrate the one of the most feared and agonizing forms of ancient execution was impalement. This barbaric practice involved driving a sharp stake through the body of the condemned, often entering through the anus or vagina and exiting through the chest or shoulder. The victim was then left to die, often slowly and in excruciating pain, with the stake raised high for public display. Impalement was used by various ancient cultures, with one of the most infamous practitioners being Vlad the Impaler in 15th century Wallachia, though its origins stretch back much further. The sheer horror and prolonged suffering associated with impalement made it a particularly effective, albeit utterly inhumane, form of deterrence. As we conclude our journey through these brutal, ancient penalties, it's sobering to reflect on the stark differences between ancient justice and our modern legal systems. While we may recoil in horror at these practices, they offer a glimpse into a world where power was often maintained through fear and the infliction of extreme suffering. These punishments remind us of the long and often bloody road humanity has traveled in its pursuit of justice, and the importance of the rights and protections we now take for granted. What are your thoughts on these ancient punishments? Let us know in the comments below. If you found this journey into the darker corners of history fascinating, be sure to like this video and subscribe for more historical explorations. Thanks for watching.